So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start breaking all these bolts loose for the drive shaft. This is, I believe it's 8mm. Yep, 8mm. So we're going to go ahead and get these bolts off, and then at that point get the drive shaft down and get this old torn boot off and get the new one installed. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start breaking these loose. Alright, break this last one loose. Alright, so at this point we have them loose. Okay, so at this point all the bolts are out of the back half of the drive shaft, or I should say it's the part of the drive shaft that, you know, attaches to the rear diff. So you don't have to pull the entire drive shaft to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the boot off, and I'm going to show you how to mark this so you line up the splines. These drive shafts are balanced. If you don't get this right, you're going to throw the balance off on the drive shaft, and you're probably going to get vibration in the drive shaft in your drive line from it, and that's not good. So when we get to that portion, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark the splines on both sides, and I'm going to slide the rear half of the drive shaft out. At that point, we're going to replace the boot, put the clamps on, and then we're going to bolt everything back up. But again, you do not have to remove the front part of the drive shaft that connects to the transfer case. You only have to remove the back half of the drive shaft that attaches to the diff, and then we're going to slide the whole drive shaft out, or I should say the back half, we're going to slide it out. And again, we're going to, once we get to that part, we're going to mark it. That way when we slide it back in, you know, and back together, we know the splines are lined up like they're supposed to. And again, make sure you mark it when you take it apart, because if you put it back together wrong, you're going to get vibration in the drive line, because the drive shafts are all balanced. They actually, if you look on them, they have weights. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start cutting the old drive shaft boot off. And actually, you don't even have to do that when you slide it off. So now that I think about it, I'm not even going to cut it off. When I take it apart, I'm going to slide it off, put the new one on, and we'll put, you know, the two ends of the drive shaft back together. But what I am going to do is I'm going to mark this with a marker now. Okay, so I grabbed a silver Sharpie and a gold one, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mark 6 of the splines on both halves of the drive shaft, because again, I want to make sure I get this right. I do not have to want to take this into a driveline shop to get the drive shaft balance. So I'm going to mark them, and I'm just going to mark it 1, 2, 3 ABC. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to move that over. A, B, C. Actually, the gold's not working out. You can barely see it, so I'm going to go over the gold with the silver Sharpie. Silver works pretty good, just so you guys know. And now I'm going to mark. Let me move this. I'm going to go ahead and mark the back half of the drive shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark the drive shaft again, because as I'm pulling it out, there's actually quite a bit of length to this. So as I'm pulling it out, I'm just marking it. 1, 2, 3. See. Again, this is probably overkill, but I'll be honest with you, I ain't taking any chances. Alright, it's out. So, when you get it out, that's what it looks like. And as you can see, I got them marked. Alright. So, at this point, you can just pull off the old boot. That's the old nasty one. Alright, so here's the new boot. And I will post a link to this in the description. There is a huge price difference depending on where you buy this. I saw some online retailers selling this thing for like $125. I paid like, I want to say it was about $30 or $35. Again, I'll post a link in the description. Do not pay $100 for this boot. I'll post the link. It's like right around $30. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but again, I'll post the link in the description. Again, do not pay $100 or more for this boot. It's like, you know, 30 or 35 bucks. And in the description, I'll post a link, and you guys can go ahead and buy one if you need it. So it comes with the rings. It also comes with grease. Go ahead and just pop the ring on. It pops on pretty easy. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to slide this over the drive shaft. It's a little messy because it's got grease all over it. So now we're going to line up the splines again that we took apart. And this is why we mark it. So when we slide it back together, we line up the splines properly. Alright, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Alright, so at this point the drive shaft is lined up, and you know, this is why we marked it. The splines are lined up, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have to cut this, but I'm going to put some grease on here. Re-grease it, slide it in, get the bolts back in the drive shaft, and then I'm going to clamp it. And I'm just kind of spreading it out around the drive shaft. And here, I'll go over it with my fingers. I probably should have put gloves on before I did this, but oh well. That's what soap's for. And I'm just double checking, making sure the splines are lined up. Again, this is why we marked them. All right. Okay, so I went ahead and I got a jack under the back diff and got the legs up, or the tires up off the air. That way you can turn the tire, and this will help line up the drive shaft. When you do this, make sure you put a chuck on the front tires. Otherwise, you don't want the, you don't want the tube to roll forward on you when you're under it. Alright, so I rotated the drive shaft and snug up the rest of the bolts. Come on. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and torque everything down. We're going to go ahead and torque this shit down. These bolts torque down to 15 foot-pounds. That's it. That's all you need. That's factory spec. Don't do more. They're not very big bolts. If you crank them down, you'll strip them. So I'm going to set my torque wrench to 15 pounds. There we go. And start torquing these bitches down. And it don't take much. I'm going to switch to my short socket. I'm just working my way around. Alright, they're all torqued down to 15 pounds. Now we're going to tighten up the band clamps on the boot. Alright, we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten up the band clamps on the drive shaft boot. So there's a distinct line. You'll be able to tell where the old boot was. Just line it up and take a big pair of channel locks or big pair of pliers and just pinch the, this is ratchet style band clamp. So all you do is you just take a big pair of pliers and pinch it together, and that's it. And it's tight. I can't turn it at all. So it's snug. It ain't going anywhere. So what's nice about this kit is you don't need any special tool for the band clamp. You just use a big pair of pliers. Alright, so at this point we got the new drive shaft boot on. We got the boot ring clamps, or you know, the clamps tightened down. We have the differential side bolts all torqued down to spec. Again, it's 15 pounds. And I think that wraps up this install.